Hey everyone, it's Serotonin. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the stuff that's going on in Canada. I think most of you are pretty aware that we are struggling with a ridiculously, willfully ignorant Prime Minister who, regardless of what anybody says to him, says that it's all about the unity of our country, even though most people want to have nothing to do with all of the decisions that are happening politically in our country. Um, this is really important. This is a man, Justin Trudeau, is someone who calls himself a feminist, yet groped a reporter when drunk and said that men and women remember things differently. He's been photographed multiple times with high profile and well known pedophiles and high profile political circles, as well as an ongoing friendship with a man called Christopher Ingvaldson, who was actually arrested for participating in child pornography ring. So this is not a good person. He spouts a lot of, rhetoric, a lot of virtue signaling, and calls himself a feminist. And yet, we have had nothing but blockades for the inquiry into the missing women and children, the Native Indigenous population in Canada, who were largely used as sacrificial fodder for these very same people that Justin Trudeau is and hangs out with. So, when I came across this article today about child marriage continuing to be legal and ongoing in Canada. Now, something really important that needs to be said as well, everyone's freaking out over the third term abortion in the US. This is prevalent in Canada too. So, Canada just, what I've noticed as a Canadian, and especially now that I've gotten more interested in politics coming from the US, is that we just don't talk about it. We just don't say what we do. So, people can talk about racism and genocide and this, that, and the other happening in other countries. Well, there's a whole lot of Chinese brought in to basically build or dig out our railroad, depending on what narrative you take. And there is a heck of a, that was considered a genocide. I mean, you look into the life of our very favorite David Suzuki and see what his parents had to put up with when he was a young child. So let's get off our high horses and talk a little bit about what's going on with child marriage. So this article here is by Joseph Green for the Humans Are Free website, and it is entitled Child Marriage Legal and Ongoing in Canada. Ontario, Alberta, and Quebec have licensed the most child marriages in the last 18 years, said Professor Elisa Koski, who researches the practice in Canada. Since 2017, Canada's government, under Justin Trudeau's Liberals, has conducted foreign policy with an explicitly feminist approach, especially as it relates to sexual and reproductive health rights. Part of that has involved trying to eradicate child marriage overseas, being the operative word. Canada is a leader and the key funder of United Nations efforts to end child marriage, which is regarded as a revealing measure of a country's development. But there has been a curious blind spot. There has been absolutely no reflection on the fact that it remains legal in Canada, said Elisa Koski, who researches child marriage in Canada as an assistant professor at McGill's University Department of Epidemiology, Biostatistics, and Occupational Health. I wouldn't trust anything coming out of McGill University. I'm sorry, but I just do not. The bizarre result is that Canada legally permits the very practices it condemns and combats in the developing world. Shocker. Child marriage in Canada is legal and ongoing, she concludes. It's not a rare legal quirk in niche communities of religious extremists, as the media coverage often suggests. Provinces have in fact issued marriage licenses for over 3,382 children over the last 18 years. In absolute numbers, Ontario sanctioned the most child marriages with 1,353 since 2000. Then with Alberta at 791 and Quebec with 590, and British Columbia with 429. Now, for those of you that don't know, there's literally an enormous population bump in Ontario compared with all of the other provinces. So that's largely the issue here. This has happened in every region. The vast majority of girls are girls, and compared to boys, girls marry at younger ages and to substantially older spouses. The rate is higher in Alberta, 5 per 10,000, or 1 boy per 10,000. Her discovery that Canada has approved at least 3,382 child marriages since 2000 is based on data from Vital Statistics offices, which indicates the marriage happened in Canada, but otherwise offers limited information. Further work with census data might offer a clearer picture of demographics, although with the added caveat that it will include marriages that happened in other countries before the person came to Canada. And it goes on and gives statistics for the US. For example, her separate research on Canadian media coverage of the issue shows that it's almost entirely about Canada's effort to eradicate child marriage abroad. Few exceptions are focused on specific religious minorities, primarily the fundamentalist Mormons in Bountiful, BC, and the fundamentalist Jewish sect Lev Tahor in the Saint Agathe de Mont, Quebec, and later in Chatham, Ontario. Canada's Federal Civil Marriage Act sets the minimum age for marriage at 16, but provinces which administer the licensing require parental consent for people younger than 18. But the United Nations and Canada, through its participation in various programs and documents, regards child marriage as a marriage of a child, which is to say someone younger than 18. The reasons are well known. The proportion of girls who marry before 18 is used as a quantifiable measure of the country's development progress and is widely considered a violation of human rights. So we'll just add that on to the genocide of the native population, of the Chinese population. Justin Trudeau's got his hands full. Research in the US shows higher mental illness and substance abuse in women who married as girls. So, it's really important to me that we all understand exactly the kind of people who are running our countries. And I think we all know that, but this was one that I needed to get out there. So please share this far and wide, and have a blessed day.